25th, and welcome everyone. So we have our surprise guest. Things sometime doesn't work, and I had my announcement in the weekend, and miscommunications and whatnot. But I am so happy we have our special guest today, Melanie Gauss. Gauss, right?
Gauss.
Gauss, Gauss,
Melanie
Gauss,
Gauss.
Gauss. Yes. I'm sorry. I terrible at pronunciation. But thank you for being here with us, Melanie.
Oh, no
And
problem.
what happened is we're gonna introduce ourselves real quick, and then we're gonna get to you, and we're gonna have you introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about who you are before we get on with the conversation. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So Sarah, why don't you start?
Sure. Do you want to record this?
Oh yeah, thank you. There you
Okay.
go.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good Monday. It's good to be
Yeah, it could be
back.
morning somewhere else, could be night somewhere else. Who knows, right? With Zoom.
Mhm. Good to be back and good to see you. And thank you for tuning in. And without any delay, let me introduce myself real quick. I'm Sarah M. I'm the co-host on this show, and I grew up in Cambodia. Start out beautiful in the countryside until I got a chance to go to college, and I went away from home because it's far away. And while I was attending college, horrible thing happened to our country, and you probably guess it. You probably know it's when the communist regime took over our country and they turned everything upside down. They destroyed our country and destroyed our life. And I struggled through the horrible experience in the regime, struggled with my health, is everything almost did not make it. But thank God that He heard my cry. I cry out. I did not want to die. I find whatever way possible to survive, and God allowed me to survive. So I'm so grateful. Not only that, He protected me through my escape a few times, and I end up crossing the border, find myself in a refugee camp in Thailand, and finally I got a sponsor to come to United States and start out in Connecticut, and then from there my life began all over again. So rebuilding my new life, and it's uh, it's a lot of challenges, but there's nothing compared to where I've been through. So that's what I want to say. That I have been through a lot, and now we are going through hard time, but it's nothing compared. And I put everything in my book. It's not everything. Part of it in my book. It's called "How I Survived the Killing Fields." A story of hope, love, and determination. When we have hope, when we have love, and have determination, we make it. So um, now I am a speaker and an author. And if you ever need an inspiration for your group, you can reach out to us, either myself or Lee. We will be there. So back to you, Lee.
Thank you, Sarah. And she is right. We have no shortage of speakers. And if we can't help you, we have a slew of other people. Whatever topic you want to talk about, we can always find you a speaker. But on that note, yes, we all have a lot of traumas, not just me and Sarah. And I'm sure a lot of our audience also have been through a lot of tough times. And there's always, when you go through a tough period, there's always a new beginning awaits somewhere for you to get start fresh. And I was no different. When Sarah was crossing the jungle, my family and I was crossing the ocean. We were out to look for freedom, just like her, in a different route. And yes, it's detrimental. There are a lot of things that we face, one phase after the other. You cross the ocean, and then then what? You got to start new beginning in the refugee camp. And once you stay and struggle in the refugee camp, and then you get to America, and then what? That's another new beginning. So life's got so many new beginnings, and the new beginnings, it doesn't have to wait until the tragic moment for you to start that new beginning. And that's what we are here talking about this month. We're talking about a new beginning is anytime you decide that you want to step out of your past and move on to a future. You can always make that as a new day, a new beginning. And I also gave a TEDx talk about my life, my story, and also write my book right here. I did not miss the boat, at many, many ending and many, many new beginnings. And I'm continuing to make new beginnings every day, meeting new people, setting new agenda, doing new things. And today I want you to meet my new friend. And she also have a lot of new beginnings. And she also an author, uh, almost getting very close. All she needs just waiting for the publish. But she's a teacher. She had helped many people begins their lives. So with that said, I want to welcome Melanie
Thank
Gauss.
you so much.
Gauss, I got
Yes,
it
you
right
did
this
it.
time.
Welcome.
So
Thank
if
you
you
so
could,
much.
oh, you're welcome. And if you could introduce to us who you are and what passion do you pursue in the past and in the present and perhaps in the future.
Well, thank you again. I spent 20 years as a teacher, and I taught elementary music. I taught high school choral music. I also taught English, and I taught middle school English and high school English, including 12th grade British literature.
Oh
I've
wow, that's
always
a
had a
tough one.
passion.
British lit is always really like a foreign language.
Well, it's a different dialect. It is.
Yeah.
But it's always been, for some reason, one of my passions.
Mm.
I've always had an affinity towards the British writers for some reason.
Mm.
So I enjoyed teaching, and I enjoyed sharing my love of literature and music with my students. I did notice, though, a lot of students really struggled
Mm.
when it came time to write.
Mm-hmm.
They just would block themselves. They would tell me, "Oh, Miss, I don't even know where to begin." And then they wouldn't write anything
Yeah.
because they were so intimidated by writing. And I came home and complained to my husband. I have a pedagogy to teach music. There's a system for this, and I can take any kid in my classroom and help them become a better musician using this pedagogy, and it's great. Where's the pedagogy for writing?
Mm.
We don't really have much. And so I went back to school at the University of Central Florida to get a master's degree in rhetoric and writing
Mm.
so that I could better help my students.
That's awesome.
So we explored everything from what is writing to why we write, how we write,
Right.
as well as then, theories and practice and composition. In other words, how to teach writing at the college level. So I think that was it was a fascinating program for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it also allowed me to look at rhetoric, how we make meaning between us.
Yeah.
And I think it was really interesting that I got to write about the rhetoric surrounding women and women's literacies. And so that I really enjoyed all of that. But I have also written fiction.
Right.
I've written novels in the past, which almost were published, but not quite. But I've written a couple of articles that were published very recently in the Orlando Sentinel. And those are more based on my studies in rhetoric at UCF. So I've written about a few different things.
Yeah. So first of all, I really want to thank you for being a teacher, because teacher is the hardest thing to be, the hardest person, the hardest career. You have to deal with a lot of energies that it might not be organized energy. It could be very radical, random energy.
It can be chaotic.
It can be very challenging, and it could drain you pretty fast, I think. Second of all, I want to say that especially being an English teacher, I used to almost cry every time I have a essay assignment. And I always got really, really nervous when I have to take a test, that I have to write the essay at the test. Essay at home, you can check dictionary, you can, polish your writing, but at the test, beside the multiple choices, you have essay to write. And that used to be my biggest fear. It's like, what if they don't understand exactly how I express myself, and it take it wrong, and I can get a really bad grade, and bad grade is all I worry about. I don't really care much about anything, but I want good grade, very, very competitive students. But the point is, British literature, poetry, Shakespeare's, those kind of thing is almost like, it's not just regular American literature, American normal speaking language. So that is another challenge for foreign student like us, who are very intimidated, in the sense that when people are taking Shakespeare apart and we sit there, our face, you could actually see that totally frozen, like, Scooby-Doo, what's going
we've
on?
been there. We've done that before. Because my kids were not, my kids were not wealthy kids. My kids were in lower income areas. Many were not, many did not speak English as a first language. And so I remember trying to teach Chaucer, and all the kids staring at me like I wasn't getting anything from them. And I remember standing there in front of the class going, oh, great, now what do I do? And
you have to talk in plain English.
So I finally thought, wait a second, but everybody likes rhyme and rhythm, and Chaucer actually does that really well. And one of the boys noticed it with me, and he noticed that about the same time, that I thought maybe that's something that would connect with them.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't you rap it? Come on. Who's going to rap this for me?
That a teacher. Oh my God.
One of them would do it, not one.
No.
I'm like, you're not going to make this little teacher do that, are you? They were like, yeah, do it. Oh, for God's sake. Okay. So as they all beat a rhythm on the desks, I rapped it. I rapped Chaucer.
A cool
I put a
teacher.
I did. Here I had studied opera as one of my undergraduate majors. I thought, oh my God.
You're rapping opera.
Would just roll in disgust.
I would love to hear that. Wouldn't it be funny if you recorded that back then?
Oh, no, no, never. But I remember doing that. Oh, yeah.
But being a good teacher, you have to find all type of thing to connect to your student in order for them to learn. And
Well,
that's the challenging part.
yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes it's improvising.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it just happens in the moment that you realize that they're not getting it, and you have to change course,
Right.
you know.
But I'm sure you know this. I mean, I have a friend who gave a TEDx talk in the same time that I did when we shared the same stage. And she was talking about how teacher can influence students and how her teacher influenced her. And it's just so true because all I did is I sat there when I listened to her talk, one by one, the teachers who influenced me in high school, in college, they're all coming back, and they do really change lives. I mean, you have probably not, I'm sure you're aware, you probably change a lot of lives out there. Tell us some of the lives that you changed that you saw and they coming back to you.
Well, I used to have a group that ate lunch with me every day. And I would bring in bread and, like turkey lunch meat and chips. And they'd all gather and make their sandwiches. And we'd sit around this big table and just talk during lunch. Mostly girls, but there were a couple boys. And
This is not from school providing, this is from you providing to them. Wow.
so that whole group and others, they're all friends on Facebook. Now they're in their early 20s. I taught them as freshmen.
Wow.
And had them, it was weird. I had them as freshmen for English, and then some of them I had later for a music course. So, so now they're in their 20s and they all Facebook friend me and they all message me. Well, I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to do about this, and I'm mad at my boyfriend, or I don't know which course to pick, or something like that. So I get those Facebook messages. I have one.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously you are very important for them because usually they don't talk to the elder anything of the personal problem, not that but teachers, parents, usually teenagers shy away. They don't, whatever you ask, like nothing, I don't know, I didn't learn anything, I don't know any. That's how usually the attitude. But if they reaching out to you and ask for your opinions, that means you have make an impact in their lives. I'm pretty sure.
I hope so. I mean, one of the things that I had to accept as a teacher is that you really don't know. You just have to, do what you do every day and move forward and hope that you help the kids. But you never, you sometimes really don't know. So, I had kids in my lunch group who at first I thought hated me. I mean, there were kids who cussed me out at first who ended up in my lunch group, which was, which was totally hysterical, but I ended up just loving them to pieces.
Yeah.
You just never really know how it's going to turn out.
One thing I have to say, I really feel for the teacher in America. I think the teachers in my country and in Cambodia, they're like next to God. No students disrespect to them because you can't disrespect to your parents, your teachers, your doctors, your authority. You always show extra respect, not even just respect. But it's a shock when I come to America system and I see how teachers have to cater themselves to students who are sometimes not so respectful. And that was a culture shock for me. It's like first time I went to school and I saw a kid has his leg on the table and I was almost like fall out of my chair. And then he was like, come here, Wendy was the teacher's name. And another shock. I sit there and I was like, aren't you supposed to go up to your teacher and ask for something you want? But it's very different. I had to learn the very hard way, but I feel for the teacher in America.
Well, thank you. I think that there is a lot of burnout.
Hmm.
There is a lot of burnout because it takes so much energy.
Yeah.
And especially if you're teaching in a school where there are a lot of different social issues
Yeah.
that you're trying to combat on a daily basis, it really does drain you. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of the reason that a couple of years ago I decided that after 20 years as a teacher, I needed to step back.
Yeah.
And
Well, you give for 20 years, so that's quite a long time. That's quite a long time. But I don't mean that all students are disrespect here, but I think that the parameter of giving the leeway and the rights and, you know, for the students is a lot more than the students in Asia. And obviously different school setting, different discipline, like in the periodical, you know, private school and public school, there's definitely there's a different um, leeway that the student can actually have more right than the other. But it is still, it doesn't matter what school the teacher in. I think teachers still put a lot of effort in order to influence and to teach. So I wanna represent everybody to say thank you for doing that.
well, and thank you, you know, for you know, acknowledging
Acknowledging,
that it's
yeah,
a hard job.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you start a new beginning after you stepping out of the teacher's role, so what do you do now?
Well, I love to travel,
Hmm.
and that has tied in a lot of my love of music and literature and history. When I studied literature and music at the undergraduate level, I had really wonderful professors who always tied in that music or literature to history. In other words, what was going on while that composer was composing that opera or writing that book or that play or that poem.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really understand Shakespeare
Hmm.
if you don't understand the Elizabethan period, Queen Elizabeth,
True.
and the
Yeah.
politics that happened at the time.
Right.
It's easier to understand Mozart if you understand what was going on around him at the time.
Hmm.
And so I picked up a lot of history, and I started blogging. As my husband and I have traveled, I've written about our experiences traveling as a couple, and a lot of our experiences have been experiencing arts, culture, history in all the places that we go. I wrote quite a bit about London because we got to go to London.
I got an idea. You
Hmm.
got all those writing, put it in a book because I'm sure a lot of people will want to read that.
I've thought about putting it in a book, but I think I wondered if it might still be best as a blog.
Hmm.
I don't know. That
Yeah.
is a
So a
it
lot of
is
people take all the blocks and put it in the book because it could be a travel block journey or something. But
could be that's a good idea.
yeah.
But I wrote a lot about being in London and exploring, you know,
Uh-huh.
the White Tower, the Tower of London.
Hmm.
And I had one day we got to visit. We got to go through Shakespeare's house,
Uh-huh.
and we got to go to Oxford the same day and have a pint where J.R.R. Tolkien, and C.S. Lewis used to hang out
Hmm.
with their friends, the Inklings. And we visited
Wow.
Warwick Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And Warwick Castle made me feel like I was in a Bernard Cornwell novel. He writes a lot of historical novels set in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that day, I think I was beyond myself fangirling. You know, I think I touched the side of the door in Shakespeare's house, and I looked at my husband and
Wow.
went, "Oh, he was here. Shakespeare was here." You know?
You touch history, you know, yeah.
I think I pet the table in the pub where Tolkien and Lewis hung out,
Wow.
and went, "Can you believe, Jim? We're drinking where Tolkien and Lewis were. Oh my God!"
Oh, wow. Wow. I would love to read that before I go to London, you know, seeing the history of the certain things, certain place, certain people. I think that would be very helpful for travelers.
Yeah, so I've been writing that blog now. Obviously, through the pandemic, we can't travel, so I had to stop work on that blog. But I started reading Bernard Cornwell again, and he gave me an idea. And it's one that I don't think I would have had time for when I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that I have an interesting family history. Both my mother's family and my father's family would have been in New York long before the Revolutionary War. And one of their ancestors settled in Barbados before coming to New York. And he was a sea captain.
Wow.
And my dad raised us on ships, and he raised us on boats. He was the first mate on an actual wooden sailing ship, a replica sailing ship. And I've always thought that there must be a pirate in the family someplace. So I thought, why couldn't I write a novel set in our Revolutionary War?
There you go.
And place one of my fictional forefathers
Right.
within the Revolutionary War. And I found out through reading and researching that John Paul Jones started a navy during the Revolutionary War, but it was small. They weren't really a match for the British Navy, because the British Navy was, you know, the biggest and best in the world. So, you know, we Americans are pretty crafty. We're pretty inventive. So our answer to combating the British Navy was to allow people to, pirate. We licensed pirates. Technically, that's called privateering. Because we licensed pirates, and the whole idea was that all these people who were fishing, who were trading, but all these people who were along the eastern seaboard and who had boats, they armed them and they went after the British supply ships, and they would get loot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted all the loot coming from Britain, coming from the Caribbean. So they ultimately they wanted to disrupt the trade route.
Yeah.
They wanted
almost like Peter Pan of the sea, huh?
Well, kind of like Robin Hood.
Robin
right?
Hood. Yeah, I mean, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
I meant Robin
Yeah.
Hood. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I think it would be a fascinating story.
Yeah, so my main character is named after my dad, because we've had several Daniels in our family. My dad is Daniel, my nephew's Daniel. So my main character is named Daniel, and he's a privateer pirating British ships. Keep the supplies getting to the British Army here.
Yeah.
What they really wanted was munitions. We couldn't make enough munitions, things like muskets,
Right.
different sized cannonballs. Gunpowder was a big thing. So if they could intercept a British ship that had all that, that was a big score, and they made a lot of money. and then our
I
side
could
could
see
use it
that
and
as a
others
movie
couldn't.
too. I mean, people are fascinating with pirates. Seriously. I mean,
This is
look at
true,
the
yeah.
Hollywood pirates. They have series of it. So, I mean, your pirate is much more reality with the revolution wars and, you know, explaining. So I would think, you know, when you get that book out, we probably want to have you back.
Well, thanks.
So this is a pre-publishing, and then after publishing, we'll have you back.
Oh, that would be
That
great.
is fascinating. I love to follow to see, you know, if you are going to materialize that into a book. But I think this is your time. This is the time. So many of us have so many extra times here. And I would say don't dream. Just create your beginning and create your dream and follow it to see where it leads you. But I
I'd
think
like,
you got a lot of great story, and I really admire for, you know, what you have done and travel. And I would think that those blogs are something to be put together as a book too. Uh,
I should do that as well.
I,
Um,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I think, you know, it's like so many times. You know, for me, I don't know about Sarah, but for me, writing is a struggle.
Oh
There's
yeah,
day I've
same
got
with me.
writer's block. I sit in front of the computer, and there's day I just want to cry. I just want to cry. Like I have so much in my mind, but I just can't dump it down to the paper or to the screen. Every single thing I want to say, I felt like I didn't say it right. I didn't have it coherent the way I want it. I don't know about you, Sarah, but it was the hardest thing for me. But sometimes it's therapeutic. When it pour, it just kind of pour, and I don't care about the grammars, the vocabulary. I just write very crude in a way, just get it out.
that's okay. That's actually what you have to do.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I noticed when I was teaching is my students, if they had a day like that where it was hard, they didn't want to write at all
Yeah.
because they were so afraid of making a mistake in style or grammar.
Right. Right.
They got so caught up in that.
What I
They got,
usually do is
they,
just go read somebody else's, just get more inspiration.
well,
Yeah,
if that helps, then
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Um,
And
like,
but
you know,
it is a struggle for many students, and I totally understand why so many of the authors having a lot of depressions, and they were drinking to get inspiration. I didn't drink, but I almost want to.
no, I did not drink.
no,
No, I tell you, I when I drink, I will not be able to write anything because I would just like I would be like a sack of potato.
Yeah, I get knocked out very easily. Yeah.
With cheap dates.
I
But
do remember when I
mhm.
tried to write the romance adventure novels, there were certain things that I could not write unless I drank. And I realized that this just isn't the kind of thing I want to write. I just can't. But I always used to tell the students when they had a hard day
Mhm.
writing, just write, just get something
Yeah,
down on the paper. Just let it
right.
out. My husband likes to call it word vomit.
Yeah. And now I cannot stop. Like I have been invited to a author's block that we write 10 blocks. Sarah did that last quarter. So my turn now. And she's like, well, between 200 words. I was like, nothing. 200 is nothing. I can't
Yeah,
explain anything in 200 words. And so I've got out like 400 and I have to keep cutting. I was like, I can't keep,
That's
but I
good.
can't write because now I'm just writing too much, and to truncate it is the problem. Like how to shrink it to make it more meaningful and short. And that's my problem now. I was like, I have to keep going in and cut it and cut it. But you know
That's
what?
good though. That
I
is
think it is
good.
a practice muscle. The more you practice, the
Mhm.
better, the easier it is.
Mhm.
But I want to thank you. I think we passed our half an hour mark, but it's so fascinating. I could talk to you forever. And then regardless, we just talked about an hour or so ago for an hour, right?
Mhm. Well, you are fascinating to talk to as
Oh,
well, and I can't wait to read both of your books.
oh, thank you.
You
Thank
know,
you. Thank you.
such a
Um,
journey.
Thank
it's
you.
yeah, it's something that we're proudly to share. I mean, it took me a long time to actually feel comfortable for people
Mm,
to be an open book so people can read everything in my thoughts in my past and in everything. But now I feel free. Actually, I feel free. I feel that I don't have anything to hide. Whatever it is, I put it out, and obviously there's still deep level of things that I did not give it all, but a bulk of it is out there. So I want to thank you, and thank you for sharing your story with us, and thank you for being a teacher, influence lives, and thank you for continuing to use your writing skill to influence the world, to give people your knowledge